família e o carro da lua. A minha até torra minha o capítulo do Aulinho, ele era Aulinho. Henry, o capítulo do Aulinho, ele era Aulinho.
Ulakut.
O capítulo do Aulinho, ele era Aulinho.
Just a reminder, the cameras and the recorders are live now, just so you'll be aware of that. And another reminder before we start, make sure you have your cell phone turned off. Yep,
Thank you. I think we can proceed now. Before we start, just a reminder that you are to have your cell phone turned off. Share in a few housekeeping items to discuss with the delegates.
Good morning and welcome back to the day 2 of the Nunavut Planning Commission public hearing on the draft Nunavut Land Use Plan. We do have some new people that weren't here yesterday, so welcome. I see one of the NERB board members that has just arrived from their meetings. Welcome. I'll just review the emergency exits and the washrooms and housekeeping from yesterday as there's new people here. Again, we have 3 emergency exits, one at the rear on this side and one at the front, and the exit that you came through. The washrooms are in the lobby as you come in the hall. Coffee, tea, water, and snacks are help yourself over where Kalak and the ladies are. Please remember to scan your name tag in if you haven't done so. It's very important that we know who is here and the numbers in the hall. The hamlet of Kogloktok, the one member is delayed and won't be arriving until just after 1 today. So we are going to defer the hamlet of Kogloktok and Kogloktok HTO presentation until their members arrive. So that will be a change in order today. And again, Bessie and her team, if you have any issues or concerns, please see Bessie and the administrative team. We want to remind you that we are live. We're live on TV. The mics are very sensitive and they pick up everything. It picked up the coffee breaks yesterday, so we're taking those out of the feed. And today the coffee breaks will be, the audio will be muted. So day 1, lessons learned, and we're moving on. So with that, Mr. Chair, I just need the agenda to see who are, the hamlet of Joe Haven, hamlet of Joe Haven and hunters and trappers. So if you're doing it together or separate, hamlet of Joe Haven is up first, and I would ask if the members are doing it together or you want to do it separately, if you could advise the chair. Thank you. Beth, the mic for the Joe Haven members, please.
Ilikut Muhammad Tut
will speak in our
Mamaya, avanin milusit tao kay it's better to do it over there. And as you're getting ready, just a reminder, state your name and your organization. And another reminder, when you're talking, make sure you think about the translators too. So if you can slow down and talk to the microphone, be better.
You may proceed.
Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. I am representing Hamlet Council. I have not fully prepared my presentation this morning to draft Nunavut land use plan. But from my understanding, it's very worthwhile document to work on for our youngsters. And tourism also is very important in our region. From KIA, from Parks Canada, who are working around our region. Our future will need to know what we are doing and how we are proceeding to work on this draft land use plan. It is a real thing that should be worked on, finished.
Microphone, come closer to the microphone so we can hear you better.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Taima tapkot Hamlet kullu KI kullu minwa khirwelo katul qatigi krisikam awlaqti malimata okhroktomi nunalagan mo ilingam marichuala kiani unkhewtigi maraga utokkakhwe qalaqluta taimalo 2025 but agliyaqtayu maqluni Taimal Doctor got Hanakrat Hakop Hatrit Palanak Novakrapchin Taimal Top got Umaban Nikamatak Ocha Halakama Lunatara Hamemata Tanmarta Wikaminik Taimal Tamna Ino Oktomer Tanguchi Salary Kuni Kibakatawa Akrani Angahana Ikarnin Amiramalika Mango number 3 Marichaka
heritage in our area.
Taimal Tapquat King of Akrakot.
Our future
How Gypsy in he will live the
will be shaped by what we are deciding here today. At the same time, they will have to live in the land for survival, for food subsistence. So we need to really get something here as for the Parks Canada. Earlier that I'm not very well prepared, so I will hand it over to my colleague.
Kakoti an ikigeli kamit takai or
Ublakut mamiana.
Good morning.
Tema tapuma katimayak to katigirama ilay ukahre magil kihiani hablekut katimiranga mikpilirare katige naitugalami ukahre nyakatka.
Counselors at Johaven
Nuna mi kamatiyang
are
at
very
imitakbiyo
concerned about what
tam
is
na ukahiwa
taking
man
place
imitakbiyo
and what
kaningani
is planned.
imiabat na.
What's important
Tupat
to our
pagiraw
community is a
kanilo
watershed,
mata
our
tagpo na
drinking
kwakak
water
na nakapman.
system. It needs
Upin
to
nga
be
ko na yuktawa
looked
mata
at
kanilo
by
ako
the
naging amalok.
authorities. It's so close to the community.
Tapwa tahik mi
It's
imitakbiyo
not
lakta mi kanipalakiraw mata na yuktawa to upin nga
So
mi.
that's a big concern for
Tay
us
malukok
in our
tak mut
community.
kubikakwig ahianut tak
Also,
ihumagiraw
the planning
himalugalak
should
puli
include
tahil
the
ikalukiyok
sewage
wiwa
system
mata ayok
and
na
our
kakakninga
lakes for fishing.
tam na kubikakwig koktak
And
mut.
it's too
Takiyong mut
really
kulik pa
close
man awrat
and
ko
seeps
tamakkwata
into the water,
tubagpagiraw
seawater
kanigirani
nearby
lo akata mata.
due to its
Ahianut tak
proximity to the
nukitaw
shore.
yung nakpata ihumagiraw
We
himalun.
are looking and
Halumang
hopefully
niloak
we
ni nga
will
tam na
relocate all of these concerns I have brought
ihumagiraw ko
forward.
tamahablat ko ni.
And these are
Hulilo
main hamlet
hiwagut
concerns
takyo
in our
hinani
community.
tupagpawinit kimaktawrakangamit
The
haliktaw
shore in
katangi
our
mata halamang
vicinity
niloak
has
nangi tuli ulo
becoming
kaya anak nili.
very unclean, and it's not
Kimay waktut
good
halakatangi
sight.
mata nunagidabot takukan
People
nakpala
are
ko lugo
getting careless with
kingubakin
their
yak
rubbish,
tabon hapuhimagya
and
kakaptigo.
we
Tamadahablat ko
are
ni kibgak tu ilunga
in need
ipigibat
of
ka
correcting
takibluhinani
situation
inuhuktut
that we have
halikpaktut
problem
upin
in
nga
our
kangat
shorelines,
haliksitawag
in our
tun
community.
nuna takukan
The
nakpada
land
ko
has to be
lugugalak
pristine
kihani
as
kinaw
it
ramig
was.
amigak sakata
And
mata
I tell you, the money
ilay
is
nani
always a problem,
halakatak
funding shortages, and not enough is done to many communities because of it. Thank you, Chair.
Kuya Namik, tayo mawala
Have you concluded your presentation?
tayo masay na pinamigata ukakairay gusto.
We will proceed the following program. There will be questions.
Kahit tigiya ko tilo, mamaya na
And just a
wala
reminder,
ati kikuning nga mga
just a reminder to the speaker, state your name and your organization, please. I'm sorry, Salome Kachwali, Joe Haven, Hamlet Counselor. Thank you.
Yeah, kuya Namita, yeah. Puyo kayo nakatanang kahit tigiya ka tanang
Just a reminder, please, for the duration of the day, so you can be identified as a speaker.
Jonathan, any questions?
Yeah, kuya Namik, tamangat participant. Nunaliningat sa mayuit.
Delegates, questions for the presenters. It appears there's none.
Participant, any questions?
Any questions from the registered delegates?
It
appears none.
Oh, before you talk to the mic, if you don't mind removing your mask so we can hear you better. Thank you.
Hear me? Is this on? Okay. Ezra Green, Nunavut Tungavik. I just have a question for clarification from the Planning Commission. The Parks Canada work around the Erebus and Terror ships was mentioned. Could you clarify how those ships are in the land use plan or not in the land use plan, or what the jurisdiction is there?
Kuya Namik, Jonathan.
Jonathan Savoy, Nunavut Planning Commission. Thank you very much for the question. The areas around the Erebus and Terror wrecks are administered by Parks Canada and are therefore outside of the Nunavut Planning Commission's jurisdiction. They're very small areas, and they're the only National Historic Sites in the territory. currently administered by Parks and not in the jurisdiction of the NPC. Thank you.
Namik and Brian, no? Namatok? Good. Any other question from the registered participant? Jonathan?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. This is Jonathan Savoy from the Nunavut Planning Commission. During consultations on the 2016 draft plan, community members in Joe Haven identified King William Island as an important caribou calving area and requested it be included in the draft plan. The Commission has included King William Island as a limited use area for caribou calving with year-round prohibitions or restrictions on many types of industrial activities. We're wondering if the Hamlet representatives have any specific comments on the inclusion of the island as a caribou calving area with year-round restrictions on activities. Thank you.
Ati kaitia longalo kiwe longini tapatauti kiwe nangi usi titakako kiyo katakon namayo
give immediate
ilani ko
answers to the
apregyauluni
question. Your answers
kiyo
may
tauti
be
kiwe siya ken
submitted in a written form.
Isumaksaksiyo ken nakayahan na
I'll leave
usulini
that up to you.
kiyo kunna usti kiyo kunna
So if
kiyo kunna
you're able
kalwat usti
to
ken
respond
kaititigia ko
at
tinna
this
kiyo niya
time,
kiyo
you
kumanna
may
usti
do so.
kiyo katakon
But
namayo
just a reminder, you have
Kiwi ako
other
magawiw, kiwi
options
ako
in responding to the questions. Thank you, Chair Hamlet, Councillor. 2016 meeting. I'm quite new to the municipal government as a councillor, so I don't have a whole lot of opinions to state. I only had one meeting so far since I was installed.
Namik
Thank you.
Tema? Good. Thank you. Any other questions? Tema wale mat kuya namik
I think
unikata asti
that concludes the presentation.
Tema Joe Haven Hunters and Trappers. Yeah, kainamik kaitiak kutitunataw
Just a
ukagalang sindi
reminder before you
kina mga pit
proceed,
kikuninga
your
mga
name, please,
kikuninga
for
mga pit
records, your
ukakanya
community.
kainamik atigo.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brandon Pickle from Joe Haven, HTA. Also going to be speaking for myself as a hunter and writer for the community. I'd like to thank the NPC for inviting us to this meeting.
Mamaya na ukakotin kaniligaw na if you can talk to the microphone closer, be better. Thank you.
Thank you, NPC, for having us at this meeting. I'm new to the HTA in Joe Haven since January. since the meeting in Joe Haven with Solomon and Jonathan, I've wanted to tell the NPC that I don't want any mining activities near Joe Haven hunting grounds. I feel that there needs to be more restrictions where we hunt to prevent anyone from mining in those areas. I would like restrictions on the Back River, Adelaide Peninsula, Franklin Lake, to protect the caribou, fish, seals, and birds from any mining activities. On our winter harvest for caribou, we travel as far as halfway to Baker Lake. I would like stronger restrictions from mining activities because I want the next generation to hunt in the same place as we do. Thank you, NPC, for your time.
Namik. Ati okamabi or namatuk or okamabi okamabi okakoyo.
You want
Yeah.
to give a presentation.
Yeah, mga Rodway Killet Rockdome and good credit kuni Katimadi
HTO member.
Titraki Marumik
We have
Himangi Napta
given
Upingami
you a short
Katimani
presentation.
Ayok Nakpago Mat Inuit
We
Holia
were
Takti
quite
Inuit
idle over
Ayok
the
Tangi
spring.
Matopingami
This is
Unai
a time
Turangat
when we are
Katimani
very active out
Tam
in
na
the land
Upingami
when
Ayok
the weather
Nakpak
warms up.
October Bili Ayok Nakwerak Taktuala
We do
Maybe
this, but
July,
starting in
September,
October, we
Tapquat,
are quite
Katimani,
stationary at the
Ayok
community. But during warm weathers, it's very hard to get
Katimani Ayok
members together due to activities out in the land. Joe Haven,
Outpost camp,
we have very high importance of our outpost camps. Some has been disturbed from 1960s. We still use them, and they are being neglected and by the community. Bobby mentioned about caribou ice crossing during months of May. The migration route of the caribou. It is very important that this is planned properly, and we have to have stricter laws when caribous are migrating. What is happening today is that people are harvesting the leaders of the caribou herd. It applies also to marine mammals, and their migration routes are very stable. These are the IQ knowledges that we want you to pay attention to as well. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Namik. Kina mga makikuni nga mga pero kung nariba.
Your organization. David Siksik, Joe Haven. I am a member of HTO committee. I have no written presentation. Our secretary manager is on holiday, so we had no chance of meetings to put a document together for presentation. But not just Joe Haven that is concerned about spring migration, especially during the calving season.
And we have to keep this practice to date. And then when we are careful, we are able to harvest wildlife for the community members who have no hunters in their household. We are very careful with caribou herd, and it's not only my community that practice this. And as I mentioned earlier, I have no presentation, and I can only talk from what I have been to learn from the meetings during the HTO meetings. You have to understand, for those of us who live up here, time off is very important, and it's only time when we have activities for warmer weather. Thank you. Just a reminder for those of us who are up here. It says in land claims agreement, many of your concerns are stated in that document, and you are protected in many ways. It says in land claims agreements, is what we're following to have this proceeding. Although you said you don't have any documents to present, your verbal presentation is very valuable.
Any questions from the staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sharon Halawak with the Nunavut Planning Commission. Jonathan Savoy, any questions? Thank you.
There's no questions. Tamangat.
Any questions from the delegates?
Sharon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sharon Halawak, Executive Director, Nunavut Planning Commission. In the presentation that the Commission gave regarding the migration route for the caribou, did the HTO have any questions or comments on the map and the materials in the plan about the migration routes? Or will you be submitting, for the record, a further written presentation when your manager gets back, specifically to the issues that you've mentioned today? Thank you.
Ati. Yep. Ati kikunin mga kikunin nga mga pakunat.
Thank you, David Siksik Johaven. The camping grounds have been our concerns for many years. We stress this to everybody in our community, especially in our surrounding area. And this is for your information coming from us. When you do your planning, and it appears you have done so, you are to be careful where the camping grounds are, ice crossings, other areas where caribou cross rivers. And this is local knowledge to all of us up here. We follow these traditional teachings from our forefathers, and they always have stressed that the camping grounds are to be protected, and they have rightly so given us advice on this topic. So when we discuss this topic camping grounds. It is very important, and it's true that there should be strict rules to the land. Thank you.
Thank you, Kuya Namik. Unang registered participant, any questions to the presentation of the Joe Haven HTO? Pitakangimat, Kuya Namik,
Appears none. Thank you, presenters, for your presentation. We have just heard there are some delegates who have not yet arrived, so we'll skip their slot to the hamlet of Kugaruk. Nothing. HTO from Kugaruk. Please take your seat. Thank you, Chair. I'm just a replacement for Kugaruk representative. I am with HTO, and I have no document presentation. We haven't met all summer to discuss the issues, and we have concerns this summer on beluga whales, although we have harvested over 20 this summer. I think my colleagues, when they come in, would be echoing me when I say we have concerns about beluga migration. And our hamlet delegates have chosen to attend other meetings that he will be going to, so I cannot speak for the hamlet, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Topics from the other communities. Do you have any questions for the previous presenter? As other communities, we have great concern of calving grounds, the migration route. I have not much to say to that because it has always been a priority where they migrate towards to Taloluak sometimes when they're migrating north. And they take the same migration route in summer. We have stated this many times to be aware of to anyone who's coming up here to explore, to use the land. And these are my traditional lands that we are speaking of, and many communities will echo this. Appears any questions from the delegates? There appears to be none, any registered participant having question. It appears there's none. Thank you for your presentation. Let's look at the agenda. Hamlet of Talukjuak, HTO. Please take your place. Thank you, Chair.
Yep.
Talura HTO. First of all, we have a video presentation before we proceed.
Utakittiatinnaas saqqattaunashuttu. Mamaya kayaw sinangani.
Sorry for the delay. So we'll take a short break so technical problems can be worked on. We'll proceed after the short break.
Nelota. Kinimik. Just
Just a reminder, our staff did not know that the delegation will have a video presentation, so if community delegates have a video to present at this proceeding, please notify the staff well beforehand so we can be prepared to work on technicalities. And we would appreciate if you would give us a day's notice to set things up. Let's proceed. We have a video presentation to watch.
We've been here 10,000 years. We know the land, we know the animal. We want to continue to be out on the land, Puthia and Arvicto. We feel we are one ecosystem with the environment, the wildlife, and we want to keep it that way. Polar bear, wolf, muskox, caribou, foxes, all kinds of birds. Those are all the things we want to protect. Turtle Rock is the most northerly community based on North America's mainland. North from here are only islands, sea, and ice. We have about 1,100 people living here, 220 houses, and 220 jobs. The whole Boothia Peninsula was a hunting area for the people that live around here.
1945 minuluk inuluk wahaktunga. Tefsumanin takannauluta ayawaksalaqattaqtagut angunahiunnaqammik qalukkiornaqammik nattiqhiornaqammik ukiukkut upinngaakkuk.
Country food, something that is given to us right from birth. A lot of the elders need country food. We have very limited jobs, so everybody has no means of going on the land with ATVs or snowmobiles. You know, because we cannot go hunting, we have to buy the food that we have that is brought from down south to the stores, that everything is shipped and costs a lot of money. Those are not our natural diet, so therefore they cause a lot of diabetes. We become more health issue every year. Because we want our country food to be plentiful for years to come. Also because we want able to be access to country food, we have to protect our territory, and that's our goal. Since 1972, I think they've been trying to protect our Boothia Peninsula. On a map, on paper, it looks big, and the reason why we are protecting it, the members say it's very narrow. It's too small. It's so important because it's a calving ground for caribou. The community doesn't want any mining. They want the caribou to be healthy, the wildlife to be healthy, the environment to be clean the way it is. We want to create Alberto in a protected and conserved area. Our plan is to protect 45,039 square kilometers of land, which represent about 0.4 of Canada's mainland. We also want to protect 40,730 square kilometers of marine area and 4,413 square kilometers of freshwater habitat. We will be hiring guardians to be the eyes and ears for our community. They will also collect observations about Alberto and our wildlife, and also harvest country food for their community. As a result of Alberto protected area, we will be able to create our own local economy based on country food. Likikakut is it's a cut and wrap facility we're trying to open for the people to be able to access country food. Likikakut will hire local hunters to supply the cut and wrap facility with country food. And we will have local men, women, and youth to operate the facility. We will process country food that is ready to eat, like ground meat, steak, ribs, and filleted fish. We're going to sell to the community at a reasonable price. We need to save our culture, to save the land. We want to reduce poverty, get more healthier, and more people to get income. There's going to be at least 10 to 20 more jobs created once we have the cut and wrap facility. Also 10 more jobs throughout the protection of Alberto.
Thank you. If I hand the table over to you, although you have mentioned that you do not have a paper presentation, your verbal presentation is just as valuable. It says in the land claims agreement, if you have worries, they can be presented in any form. So we know that you have mentioned previously no documents. It's fine. Okay, let's proceed. State your name and who you're with, please. Good morning. Gene Juk, Talukyak Hamlet Council. I have a presentation, a short statement. David Patek Tutalik and I are from Hamlet office of Talukyak at the meeting in our community. We are fully aware what HTO concerns are in our community. They have been in full communication with us, and we are two groups in full agreement on Bhutia Peninsula. There are hardly any jobs in communities for the original inhabitants, so food security at times is a problem. There are people employed, and when they go out hunting, they share the community with the widows and for those who are not able to hunt for themselves, so the food harvested is shared. Although there are problems with this, it's still community effort to work together. It's a tradition that we have practiced for many years, although today's economy dictates that things are becoming hardship, especially to our community. The hunting equipment, vehicles of all sorts, all-terrain vehicles, canoes, are very expensive, and not everybody can afford these hunting transportation equipments. Sometimes people go into heavy debts to acquire just so they could hunt and harvest. Hakbekdok has been in place for many years to for people to have as a protected area. We plant this for future use, so our future children can be comfortable as we can in using the land. Although we go through hard times today, our grandchildren, their grandchildren, their future will need to use what we are preparing today. They should not go through hardship due to bad planning. Just so the community can be healthy. Food security is a big problem, and that should be looked at. We, from community of Talukyak, our forefathers came in from Baffin Island area, Cape Dorset, and when we arrived, Nachilik people have already been living here. Talukyak means migrating path of a caribou. There are blinds in our area. We used to harvest caribou in the early days. That's how the name arrives as a community. It's a major migration route then and now. And we live just outside that major migration route. As I mentioned, and what we want to see, we are originally from Cape Dorset area, mixing with Nachilik people, and we have become living in good harmony. My late father I asked him, I want you to know before I go, I don't want your mother to be hungry. And up to today, in any way I could, I try looking after my mother because I was told to look after her. As many of us are following the last words of our late parents, and we as a Hamlet Council, our mayor have said, you as a community, we are not the mining companies, we are no big companies, we are the hunters living in this land, we are the harvesters, we are the hunters, and we are not miners, we're not explorers. When she told me that, I remember these words. I have long discussion with these from what I was told. The HTO in communities are working hard, protecting the land, marine, and terrestrial animals, and they are going further and further to harvest beluga whales. Me and my husband, we have cabin quite far from the community. We still travel there. And it says Abernathy area in our English. My husband's forefathers have traditional land in that area. It's a good harvesting ground for marine and land animals. We are truly still today land people. Boothia Peninsula is a very beautiful area used by our forefathers and Nachilik people. It's a shared area. And our area, especially near Fort Ross area. Thank you. Thank you. Before you start, your name and your organization you represent, please. And thank you. I am a Hamlet councillor, so just to be sure, I'll take my sweater off. HTO we work well with HTO groups, although I'm a very avid hunter. My name is Tutalik Patek, Hamlet Councillor Talukjuak. Our presentations, I will echo their importance. The video you have seen is well prepared, and my colleagues who have spoken and mentioned close working harmony we have with this group, HTO. Our Secretary Treasurer for HTO is very helpful. He works hard. Although I'm not saying this just because he's my relatives, and my friend as well is my relatives, and sitting next to me is my sister-in-law, my elder Ulupak is here. Okay, for a short presentation, I have mentioned my working colleagues, their deceased relatives, their parents, and mine have worked hard over the years in respect to the land, especially Boothia Peninsula. First, It has been a very valuable land. It has provided everything to us. It was so when I was a youngster, and it's still today. Boothia Peninsula is valuable territory. It's valuable not only to us, but to its surrounding area, abundant wildlife, bowhead whales. I have heard over the years, and I tell you what I've been told, how valuable the land is, the marine life. Do you know Hikanek? It comes and dawns. It's like night and day. It comes from the west and goes down in the east. Our life is just like that. It's ongoing. Our marine areas in our communities are abundant in wildlife. So I use rising of the sun and setting as a sign, because we are carrying on as the days go by. Our fathers are gone and leaving us advised to be in harmony with Nachilik people. We follow what we have been told. They told us, always advise us, you keep the land clean and it will provide for you. Above ground, especially the fresh waters, before the people start arriving in abundance, land was prestige. We have not heard of mining companies' explorations until recently. Our forefathers come before these companies arrive to us. Our teachings from our forefathers are the priority. We will not give them up for anything. Even though companies say to us, it will be good for your economy. The land comes first. We will follow that, as we always have. And if exploration, the mining companies start emerging, we will be like a town in an island, surrounded by a boundary and not being able to go to places where we used to go. Our forefathers have told us to travel freely, the land where animals will provide for you. It's good when we are told that jobs will be created, there will be employment. It's short term, and where hunting is how we live by and what we use to provide food for our household. We still obey. We still follow what we being taught. We trying to pass this on. Although we are told economy is good for you, job creation is good for you. It will prosper you for such a short time, but at heavy price. So we're told you will have wage economy. You will earn at what cost? Buffalo, fish, or muskox rather, caribou, wildlife, at those costs. So people before me, we obey. We take their advice, their teaching as very valuable lessons in our lifestyle. I remember this. The elder who know from Kivalek, he's passed now, Mariano Aupalakyuk. He's a wise man and advisor. He has advised us over the years, and we take his teachings very seriously. He talks and speaks from the heart. He teaches with a feeling, and his words that we have learned from him are true. So many times I hear him, I listen to him, although he's from the Chilik area. So we prosper many times under his teaching. I just thought I mentioned his name because he was a wise man, a good teacher. So Jeannie and I have heard these teachings for many years, and at the same time listening to what you have to present to us, helping and working with each other today have to be in evidence, but at what point? We agree what's being proceeded here, and Hamlet councillors being invited to give a presentation. It's not too late. We still can work together and come up with a good plan. And I tell you, we will work with you, our colleagues from the region, and other organizations. These people sitting next to me are just as concerned about the future as I am. And I give you a short presentation to let you know of Working Harmony. Other presentations? Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Jimmy Kulittalik.
We're the leaders on protection of Awikto as a community-based initiative. We would like to thank our partners for helping us out. There's so much, like the current rock facility will create, like since we don't want mining, but we need income, we need jobs, our current rock facility will create jobs for our community. And we'll only hire experienced hunters that will teach, that will go with younger people that will be trained. Like I said before, we have five guardians and two youth guardians that are in training for the this since we did water sampling since 2015, because we know the water is clean and we need the baseline, and if anything ever happened there, we could come back to the document and say, look how clean it was, and we want it to be that clean again. These are some of the things we are doing. We have a partner. We're partners with a Canadian outfitting, but because of COVID, we haven't had any activities happening. But we do muskog sport hunting with as part of our income. We're looking at fishing lodges, nature walks, nature shows, tourism. There's a lot of different ideas: winter, summer, tourism, like polar bear. Instead of catching polar bears, someone could go take pictures of polar bear, things like that. We are looking at all kinds of things like that to benefit our community. Again, the cut and wrap facility is for the town of Tallulah. So, like for the access of country food to the locals, and with that, we want to create a management plan. We're creating a management plan for our wildlife, our environment. Since we before it was like we're random hunters, we're random hunting now. Since because people don't have access to snowmobiles and ATVs, so they have to borrow somebody's, and then they go out and try to catch as much as they can or whatever. That's random hunting. That's not our way of life. Our way of life is we plan hunts. They're not always successful plans, but they were always planned. So this way, management, we have a management plan in place. We will protect the wildlife, the environment as well. Like historic site, when the radiocarbon dating dates up to 10,000 years, so we've been occupying the land for many, many years. We have since the cut and wrap facility, I sat down with we looked at and how could be run and how much money it could make. We figured, and we were being conservative, and it will make at least $1 million a year on profit, and we want to use that half of it to keep the cut and wrap facility going, and half of it to create youth and elders programs to get back in our roots, to get back. Since, like I said, there's a lot of people don't go out on the land, even though they're in Tallulah, because no means up to go out on the land, because hardly there's no hardly any jobs in Tallulah. We're not saying we don't want people to work in the mine from Tallulah. There's some people that go work in the mine from Tallulah, maybe 2 or 3 people. It's not. It's just that we don't want mine in Alberto. Yeah, we've been accompanied by, since we're leaders in community base, it's very rewarding to create jobs, and all Inuit are working. I'll just there's so much shipping. Shipping. Because if there was any oil spill, that's going to contaminate the waters and our wells. We got many char. We want to protect the char, seals. A few years ago, we had there was a report Canada's got the cleanest polar bears in the world. We want to keep it that way. At that note, Kunamik.
Thank you. I never heard their presentation name.
Viola Nibiakiak,
Viola Nibiakiak, Talokra HTO board member.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. I'd like to say out of respect, you're here because I'm here. You're here because my ancestors and their ancestors before them inhabited these lands, our lands. They mapped these lands. They strived. They lived through the harshest conditions. Because of their failures and succeeding and accomplishing what they had gone through with their obstacles, their knowledge, that's where oral history is very important. It's very vital for us. They taught their children and their grandchildren. It's coming down to my child. It's coming down to my grandchildren. With one hunter's catch, it could gather a lot of people in my community. Not only in my community, there's extended family members throughout the territory and elsewhere. We share our catch. With that being said, our ancestors gave all this information. They have given us all our mappings. Each and every page is from them. It came from them. It's not new it's new to the world, but this is where this paper come from, is from our ancestors. With today's world, economically, politically, poverty, high cost living, education, physical, and emotional, it all intertwines to our knowledge. Our community doesn't have a lot of jobs, but our HTA created a number of jobs that could feed everyone in the community. For the people who can't go out because they're elderly or they do not have hunting equipment, and that they can have food, country food for our people. And it would be nice to see people who represent our leaders in our own community have seats up where the GN, the NTI, the KIA, the NPC, that's where you got your information from, is from our leaders. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Joe Ashibak, HTO Chair. I would like to thank NPC for giving us this opportunity to speak at this proceeding, and HTO Hamlet councillors from my community. We are here to discuss something that is very important to all of us, the draft land use plan. I thank them for agreeing to present their opinions to you, why we are here. And each presenter has spoken what's in their mind, so I thank them for being frank. I like to go back to that a bit. We are relocated people from surrounding tundra gathered into a community. And the hard times that we have faced before. A short presentation here. At that time when I was a child, we lived outside of the community as nomads. 1956. I think at that time we were dispersed around where the community is now. And during 1960s, then we started being relocated to one central location where we ordered to live in one community, and it appears that this happened throughout the whole territory. I was youngster at the time when relocations were taking place as a child. Growing up into teenager, our land at the time was quite harsh in mammals. Sometimes we had a hard time catching caribou. Our community named Talokyoak, it was placed into a major caribou migration herd. Our parents hunted caribou with bow and arrow and other crude instruments, so people had to be very careful in concealing themselves. That's how the community name came about. At that time, Talokyoak, it was a major migration route. It was calving ground area up to northern Bhutia Peninsula where caribou migrated. There are caribou bones all over the area. There are many Inukshuks in the land where they were used to hunt caribou, to gather caribou in certain places. Our forefathers, we know where their hunting grounds are because of that. There are old stone rings where people used to live in the tundra. We know where they are. lands of our forefathers. As I mentioned earlier, when we moved to Talogyoak, at times things were hard living together in central locations, so people start traveling very far by dog teams and even to the north shore of Bhutia Peninsula. And Talogyoak, as we call it today, and at the time it has abundant mammal life. We were centralized into the community, so the animals at the time were gone. And the Inukshuks, the rings, were there, and the caribou used to migrate through that area. Our forefathers, we still stand on their teachings, their advice about the land and wildlife. For those of us who are here today, we are respected to mind the wildlife. Although these rules are not written, it's all oral tradition. It's all still real today. So when things were hard in those days and living in centralized location, and we didn't want to. And before we were forced to move to the community, as a child I remember, as a teenager we moved to centralized location where I grew up. My father's name was Asivak. He was a true hunter. He worked hard. And I used to hunt with him by dog teams, later on by mechanized mobiles. Hunting from Talogyoak, my colleagues from the community will know. They have seen me as a youngster that I was a slow learner. But worked hard. My father taught me that you will have to become a man, and this is how you will hunt, this is how you will harvest, look after animals, find animals, regardless marine or terrestrial. But even as a slow learner, I was taught well. In early 90s, my father passed away due to his age and due to illness, and he passed away. There, when he passed on, his advices, his teachings to me as a youngster became a reality. I had to live by and teach myself because his instructions, his teachings were real to me then. And at the time when he was advising me, then I realized he was teaching me how I will survive for myself and my family. So his words, his teaching became a reality. Today, as we live in the communities, we are concerned that the mining companies, exploration companies are to be kept minimum because we are not fully prepared yet how we should look after the wildlife, what protection we should place on wildlife and the land. And there are many new species coming as well. The land is starting to look very precious to us. I have seen in other communities where the mining companies are in full operations. They say economy is well, people are working, but today I see this, that if we were to have a mine, the land will be ruined, never to be replaced, but we will work in mines at the cost of losing mammal in the area. So just going back a bit to 1970s, polar gas was in exploration, and they wanted to create a pipeline right through the community, from the hierarchic building pipeline to southern Canada. Polar gas and was in full operation, so the oil can flow. I remember in 1970s, people who were living at the times, my ancestors, men, elderly, they were hard dominated by government, pressuring them to have pipeline come through. So people start meeting at night to see what they can do to deter this pipeline coming through the community and the land. I remember at that time we worked very hard. We were more concerned about the land and the wild animal that is not ruined yet by industry. Talokyoak is at the point, and the surrounding area of the community is all water, and the caribou now comes through our community, migrating north, traveling, migrating westward. There are no other routes that caribou is migrating today. If the mining and industry was to come up into that area, we have nothing. We lose everything, including the land. Today, we have learned as Inuit, the caribou has gone. If they're gone, it will take a long time to populate themselves again. They will find new migration routes, they will find new feeding ground, and they would not come back to an area where they were replaced by industry. Here in Kijakmiut and Baffin Island, I hear that the caribou is practically gone. Our forefathers teaching, who have lived solely on wildlife as hunters, they miss their food, our elders today, because the caribou, the wildlife is gone. I have a feeling for them because their food substance is replaced. They're in need of their food that they ate as youngsters. We will. That is going to happen in Talokyoak. And if this proceeding here is not done properly, we are given an opportunity how we can plan in planning of wildlife, the land. And for many years, if we lose wildlife, it will be a long time before they start appearing again, and this is a fact. Today, HTO in Talokyoak, they are providing a community subsistence living, as Jimmy has said, to look after the land is the foundation. It's to teach people who have no hunting skills today how to hunt caribou, fish, muskox. Control hunt. So, as we are today going through these changes, the wildlife are more valuable. And as it is today, we vision the future that we should strive to work hard in preserving healthy life. And my presentation, because my late father have told me how I will survive, how I can live, and now he's gone. His every words are within me. I know where I am, how to look after myself. And just for me, I'm letting you know how I was taught. My father was a great hunter. He lived well. And he taught me, when you become available, if you remember your teachings, you will succeed. And he told me, feed those who are not able to feed themselves. Help them out. And it's still with me today. So before that, I was a wildlife officer for Joe Haven, Cougarok, and Talukwa as a wildlife officer. In that job, I have seen, and looking at my fellow people, that I had to deal with them. And because one of my jobs was to keep the law up to date according to modern day today. And as a retired person, people I have had to oversee as a manager of wildlife. Now today, when I retired, my friendship has arrived where it was confrontational before. And people have told me, your father was a caring man. He hunted for the people who are not able to hunt. And I never expected that people should think of me like that when I was enforcing wildlife policies as part of a governing institution. Today, our food sustenance is on topic, how we want to take control of our life, our land. And for those who are not able to help themselves, we still have to make this food crisis under control, hunt, so it can be abundance. Healthy life, food insecurity, so we could be well fed in the future. And today we are speaking of wildlife. We can help ourselves for many, many years to come. And it's not easy work. It will not be done overnight. Colleagues from my community have touched on different topics in care of their community. We are not speaking on the same topic. We are speaking on the health of the community in terms of development, mining. There are other ways to live, to be healthy outside these industries that want to come up north. There are food to be had from the land. Thank you. Thank you.
Tema Balesi.
I think that concludes your presentation, unless you have additions. Thank you, Chair. Jimmy Ulikatalik.
Since we started the process of trying to protect Alberto, we received right now about $5 million to protect Alberto. We just got 3.5 from DFO for the Guardian program. We got 450,000 from inspirational prize for Nikikakut. And from ECC, we also got some funding for consultation and stuff like that for our neighboring communities. So I just wanted to mention those.
Further comments? In our communities at the Marine Life, I didn't mention this, so I don't want it to pass. Our marine areas, we use whaling areas, which is quite far from the community. And when they arrive, we have abundance maktak for the community and to the other areas and to the mainland. They travel by canoe and by land and through the rivers and by boats. So the people in community have various transportation modes to acquire wildlife to different parts of our immediate area. So in Bhutia Peninsula, the travel is quite far to other areas, going up north and by Honda and by canoe again. And this is way of hunting for hunters in Taloriak. And they travel in many different ways to hunt. We travel through different parts of marine life, a lot of polar bears, and especially in Apumivik area, the Choctawic area, and going on further to Ilautnali near Ikiahak. And there are many polar bears now. I didn't want to let that go by. I was going to mention it. And many people have hunt because of the community effort. Thank you. That concludes your presentation. Any questions from the delegates or the staff?
Jonathan?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. This is Jonathan Savoy from the Nunavut Planning Commission. Thank you very much for your presentations today. Just to clarify, the Bhutia Peninsula or Avuktuk is designated as a limited use area in the 2021 draft plan, and that includes year-round prohibitions or restrictions on several industrial uses, including mineral exploration and development and oil and gas exploration and development. Do you have any comments on whether you support that designation in the land use plan as drafted? Thank you.
Jimulakatalik, Tawak, Umarakuni.
It's Teo. Thank you.
Jonathan, thank you for your question. Yes, sorry, I forgot to mention, the board supports the current land use plan, draft land use plan. Also, we made a motion to support. Tarwa HDO made a motion to support draft the way it is right now.
Any more questions, Jonathan? Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Jimmy, for that confirmation. As a follow-up question, we noted that there are some different views on the management of Inuit-owned lands and Crown lands identified by participants. Do you have any comments on the treatment of Crown land compared to Inuit-owned land on the Boothia Peninsula in particular, as there are extensive Inuit-owned lands in Avuktuk?
Go ahead.
Kinimik, Jimulakatiruna, Tawak, Umarakunigachimaruk. Yeah, we looked at all that. There's a few things, we want to look at some more. It's not, again, we're working on this. Everything's taking time. But yeah, we're going to look at all that and, find ways best so that, everybody is a win-win situation. There's different options we were looking at, but it's something the board and the community hasn't really got into details, so I can't really say what we're going to do, but those are things we're looking at, yes.
Namik, Tema, or you have more questions? No.
There appears to be no more questions to the delegates.
After the participant from that community, if there's none, I'll go down. Kami anak na bit, aparigiya ko yung microphone. Kinaw mga pit, nakikuni nga mga pilo.
Thank you. Anderson Trappers Organization Chair. The Boothia Peninsula you have mentioned, has it been worked on? Other communities in your vicinities are very interested and need information because we want to hear how everything is proceeding with you on this project you have mentioned. Ichio Tanokyuak. The projects that we are undertaking, we can work with Johaven and other communities. We have not able to travel too much because of the recent COVID-19 problems, but it will be there.
Questions?
Thank you, Chair Kugaro. We know that land is precious. We also have to think about surrounding communities, and hunting appears to be a big concern. At the same time, there has been a bit of topic on job creation. Is that still a problem with you?
Yeah,
Thank you.
There's different tourism, nature watch, fish lodge, fishing lodges, muskox, sport hunt. Yeah, these are some of the things we're looking at for in the future to make more money, to keep for local people to make money.
Yeah, Kyanamik, après kan nabayok.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Jimmy. As you have said, people also want to be in business to make wage economy for themselves. You said you're going to various things as projects, and I will need to see how successful these ventures will be. Any further questions from the delegates? It appears there's none. And Peter, you have the floor. Please state your name and your organization, please.
Peter Taptuna.
Peter Taptuna.
Association. I just want a clarification on a question that was asked by Mr. Savoy on whether IRL should be limited use, and ask that question to the committee members. First of all, I want to thank Philip Goff for their presentation. It's an excellent presentation, and we just want clarification from this type of forum. We have a public hearing to get all the facts out of all the issues that we face as communities and as representatives of Inuit organizations, as IPG. We want all the facts out there. We're not expecting questions with a yes or no answer. We are having our presentation sometimes this afternoon, I believe, and if Mr. Savoy can clarify the question with follow-ups on the impact of limited use designations on Inuit-owned land. We'll be able to do that too after our presentation, so I appreciate the fact that this forum, this public hearing, is to get all the facts, not particularly just a yes or no answer. Tema. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sharon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sharon Ahalawak, Nunavut Planning Commission Executive Director. And Peter, thank you so much for your comments. The Commission strives to seek information where there's competing interests, and the objective of having the oral question time was recommended to the Commission, and we're allowing that time for all participants for questions. And where there are competing interests and the Commission has to make decisions, the questions relevant to seek more information, whether it's Crown Land, IOL, or the landowner. It helps the commission gather the information from the community's perspectives, from organizations' perspectives, and that's what we're striving to do. So I believe the intent of the question was to seek clarification from the community members whether or not they see that the Inuit-owned lands, or known as IOL, the acronym, should be treated differently from their recommendations in their protection plan, or do they see the Crown land, Inuit-owned land, or the landowner, whether it's the municipality, whether it should be included or excluded in their suggestions of protection. And as we know, the Commission seeks for solutions from organizations, parties, to give us the recommended options, and we're very open to hearing that, and we do want to gather as much information from all participants that are here participating at these public hearings, so the commissioners, who are the panel to make the decisions and final recommendations based on the information given, have adequate answers. And we look forward to the presentation from the Kitikmeot Inuit Association to gather your views as well when we have the presentation this afternoon. So the Commission does need to seek clarity. If yourself or others would like to come up and ask the questions, or context that you would like to see addressed, we welcome that as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I hope that answers your question, Peter. Thank you.
Okay, Namik, so we can pause for a bit, and then you can go ahead and ask another question.
Commissioner Peter Tapdoon of the Inuit Association. I thank you for that response, Mr. Khalwak. KIA is a designated Inuit organization with authority and jurisdiction over Inuit-owned land, and we'd be obliged to receive those same questions that's being asked of the community members after our presentation. As you know, we're trying to get all the information out there and facts that give the Commission better understanding, communities and the Commission better understanding of roles and responsibilities of Inuit organization. And that's the intent of the Nunavut Agreement, that public consultation, get all the facts out there.
Okay, Namik. Good. Jeannie?
Kuyan Namik Jeannie Ugrurunga. Kalorani Hamlan Ingakunga. Kakwa Inuit Angirote
Nunavut Agreement.
Na miniride Tito Himamata Inuit owned land.
KIA Inuit owned land administered by KIA. They have given us support. We're able to understand IOL. We continue looking forward to KIA support. We can work with KIA regarding land designation. We can work with them. We work with KIA. We're from the same region, Johaven, Kaluktucha, Kokoloktok, Cambridge Bay. We work together as a region. We are looking forward to working relationship, especially with KIA. If we don't agree what is proceeding, we want you to listen to the community in questions, concerns.
Any other questions from registered? She had her hand up first, and I'll go to you after. Go ahead. Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't know anybody's name down there.
I don't know all the registered delegates' names, so forgive me. Go ahead, please.
Pamela Wong here, Senior Research and Technical Advisor for the Kitakamiut Regional Wildlife Board. I have a question for NPC regarding the different land use designations for caribou. Is it possible to have different designations for different herds, so on a herd-specific basis rather than a broad caribou designation? Thank you.
Sharon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sharon Hallowick, Executive Director for the Nunavut Planning Commission. Jonathan Savoy.
Jonathan Savoy with the Nunavut Planning Commission. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Pamela, for the question. Yes, there can be different approaches for different caribou herds. In fact, there are some examples of that, including caribou wintering habitat that we noted yesterday. So Prairie caribou wintering habitat is treated differently than other herds' wintering habitat. That approach could be, or a distinct approach could be applied for different herds depending on the evidence that commissioners consider and the recommendations from participants. They're largely treated the same, but there's nothing to prevent a different approach for different herds. Thank you.
Tema? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for this fascinating presentation. My name is Eamon Carroll. I'm legal counsel for the Government of Nunavut. The Government of Nunavut is very interested and would like to get more information on these proposals. So I would like to ask 4 questions to the Hamlet of, to the Hunters and Trappers Organization. Chair.
Excuse me, I think they're having a hard time hearing you. If you can just speak to your mic a little closer, appreciate it. Thank you.
Eamon Carroll, legal counsel for the Government of Nunavut. We would like to ask 4 questions to the Hunters and Trappers Organization about this fascinating proposal. Will they be following up with separate written submissions after this hearing? If not, where can we find more information about this proposal? And then additionally, there were 2 other components aside from the protection of the Boothia Peninsula. The development of data sets. Will they be sharing those data sets in any subsequent written submissions? And finally, will the project for a meat processing facility come as a separate project proposal or be shared in the submissions?
Thank you. Before somebody answers your question, just a reminder, I mentioned this before as the commissioners working under Nunavut Agreement, according to how we were allocate this particular task. And it says there that oral questions are acceptable, so we can proceed with proper planning. Although it's certainly verbal presentation now, it's quite sufficient, and it will be binding for as people discuss it We ask for written submission at times, and according to Nunavut agreement, it says anyone who have concern may do so verbally. According to Kablunak culture, you want to see science and other real means. We have ways for our groups, and at this time verbal presentations will be acceptable. And he asked a question, a panel, and you may answer his questions by written submission if you're not able to answer orally at this time.
Jumuligatalik, Torah Umerikut. I forgot the questions already.
Are you following up with written submissions? If not, is there somewhere where we can go to get more information about these two projects? Is the meat processing facility going to come as a separate project submission at a later date from the protection of the Boothia Peninsula? And finally, you mentioned development of data sets. Will you be sharing those data sets in any submissions, or is there a means to have them shared with the government of Nunavut?
Atigo. Yeah, Kanamik, Jumuligatalik, Torah Umurikut. Like, we submit motion that the board supports the the NPC draft land use plan. For the current wrap facility, it's part. It exists with the protection of Agwekto. We're in the process of the business plan. We're in the process of branding names. We were going to get the current facility this year, but again, COVID delayed everything, so it won't happen till next year. And there, we're going to prove that the current facility is it's common sense to every community in Nunavut. That's how we got the inspirational prize from. That's how we got it, because it's common sense to Nunavut milk. Current facility is 2022. Before, we could just give meat to anybody and they could process it, but it's 2022, and in colonial days when they said gather the people, we'll give you money, but the money was going to be used only to the northern store, at the time Hudson Bay, and that was processed food only. So we got used to ground beef, steaks, but we could have all that in country food if we have a cutting wrap facility, and it's healthier for us. So it's separate.
I
want to answer the question.
Tamna apekota kuyu magako nunabut kapamakku uniki kapituni aperiman. Pi tuki hijarapko aperiluni ukwa kanurinarpat ukwa
And it appears that you want to know and you want data pertaining to the projects.
Kapamak nunabut kapamakku atani naptatalurang mirtaudugut.
As under government of Nunavut as a community, you're our governing body. Government always asks for details. What will you do? How will you make it appear? What does it look like? So to the people of Talokwa, the legislation regarding to the community will become more and more comprehensive, more detailed. If government is concerned about the communities in terms of health, teaching to the communities, you can also have your ways to assist. We have our own culture, we have way of doing things. Sometimes we have a hard time understanding what government and where are they coming from. Because of so much detail, so much data, despite what is being asked, we still work with people who are concerned about our community, our projects, our economy. Will you work with us rather than having other attitude to delay and perhaps stop altogether what is happening in a region or a community? We want to have a healthy community in the future. We need to do things our own way. So now the question is, will you work with us?
Any other questions from the registered participants? Atigo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ezra Green, Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated. I have a question of clarification from the Commission. In the presentation, Talokjuak mentioned interest in outfitting and also in potentially building a fishing cabin, I believe it was. And the Boothia Peninsula has 2 limited use areas, both related to, or more than 2, but caribou related limited use areas, and also the community area of interest. And I'm just seeking clarification if there's anything within the limitations that might affect the interest to do outfitting or sports hunting, or the building of a fishing cabin. Or a hunting cabin.
Sharon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sharon Ahalawak, Executive Director, Nunavut Planning Commission. Jonathan Savoy.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
Thank you very much, Jonathan Savoy with the Nunavut Planning Commission. Thank you for the question. You're correct in that there are multiple designations on the Boothia Peninsula. The designation assigned as a community area of interest for the Boothia Peninsula does not have any prohibitions on those types of activities you mentioned, including outfitting or fishing cabins as examples. And there are no other plan requirements associated with that designation. However, the community has also identified the peninsula as a caribou calving area, and that has been included in the draft plan. So again, there are prohibited uses for caribou calving. None of those would include tourism, outfitting, those types of activities. However, there are seasonal restrictions also applicable to caribou calving areas, and those are listed as project proponents must cease all uses in caribou calving areas except for research and tourism related to caribou conservation during the dates set out in Table 2. So there are, so if there was a fishing lodge, for example, the way the plan is currently drafted, that could be interpreted to mean that the operation of a fishing lodge during calving season would not be permitted during that time. So another example of details where additional feedback on this issue would be appreciated from any participants. Thank you.
Sharon, want to add? Go ahead, Sharon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And for clarity for the record, and I think it pertains to Mr. Peter Taptuna from the Kitikmeot Inuit Association, relevancy of the Commission's questions. I will read into the record so all participants are clear why the Commission is asking the questions that we're asking and the authority that is guided through the Nunavut Agreement. Article 11, Clause 11.8.2. The land use planning process shall apply to Inuit-owned lands. Land use plans shall take into account Inuit goals and objectives for Inuit-owned lands. Article 11, 11.3.2. The purpose of the land use plan shall be to protect and promote the existing and future well-being of the residents and communities of the Nunavut settlement area, taking into account the interests of all Canadians, and to protect and, where necessary, to restore the environmental integrity of the Nunavut settlement area. Article 11, 11.2.1b. The primary purpose of the land use plan for the Nunavut settlement area shall be to protect and promote the existing and future well-being of those persons, ordinary residents, and communities of the Nunavut settlement area, taking into account, again, the interest of all Canadians. Special attention shall be devoted to protecting and promoting the existing and future well-being of Inuit and Inuit-owned lands. Article 17, 17.1.4. Sorry, 17.1.3. Inuit-owned lands, to the extent possible, provide for mixed characteristics outlined above in Article 17 in order to secure balanced economic development. However, the relative weighting of the characteristics with respect to any community or region shall turn on the actual or potential economic opportunities at hand and the particular community or regional preferences. So the Commission is tasked to listen to everyone around this table, to listen to all organizations, and it is our mandate to find a balance that serves the interests, and that is what the Commission is striving to do, and I'm grateful for the active engagement, and we hopefully will continue to do so. But with the question of whether or not the Commission has authority on IOL, I apologize, Inuit-owned lands, the Commission does have authority, and we need to find solutions collectively, respecting, as you said, the IQ principles, working together, and finding solutions that meet the needs of communities and others that own the land. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Gentlemen with their hands up, go ahead. You're the only one so far. State your name and your organization, and make sure you're close to the microphone when you speak. Thank you.
I'm too short. Kuyanamik, Mr. Chair, and my name is Luigi Toretti. I am a consultant to the Kitakmiut Inuit Association. Thank you very much for quoting those articles, Ms. Alawak. Those are articles or sections of the Nunavut Agreement that the Kitakmiut Inuit Association has been putting forward to the Commission for quite some time, along with NTI. Just a point of clarification, the question was relating, and Ezra, as a colleague, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understood the question was relating to limited use and on the areas there. There was no specific point to Inuit-owned land. So in terms of a clarification, if the Taloriwak HTO were to come to KIA and say, this is the project that we have and it is on IOL, we would absolutely work with them. So, absolutely. Whether or not there's a limited use designation or not, if it is on IOL and this is a project that an Inuit organization would present to the Kitakmiut Inuit Association, we would definitely move forward along with that project. Now, for a clarification question to NPC, given the limited use specification, if the project is being proposed on Crown land, would this Inuit organization be able to proceed forward with that project? Or does the limited use classification have to exempt Inuit? Time out.
Sharon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sharon Ahalawak, Executive Director with the Planning Commission. Luigi, thank you very much for your question. Jonathan Savoy.
Thank you very much. This is Jonathan Savoy from the Nunavut Planning Commission. I don't think I understand the question, and in particular the reference to a project. It was not clear to me whether you were using the term project to refer to something like a fishing lodge like we were talking about earlier, or project meaning the initiative to establish some sort of management area on the Boothia Peninsula.
If you can go up to the microphone, Great. Your name and your organization for the record. Thank you.
Kittermeut Inuit Association, Luigi Toretti, consultant to the Kittermeut Inuit Association. So the original question from Ezra was specifically relating to constructions and fishing lodge types of activities. So that is, I think I tried to clarify that if the project was on IOL, we would be dealing with it one way. But if the project is on Crown land, there is a different, does the limited use prohibit the limited use classification on Caribou calving area? Would that prohibit this project with its fishing lodge and fishing activities? Would it prohibit that activity from moving forward? Okay, is that a little bit clearer?
Thank you. Thank you for clarification. Jonathan, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Again, Jonathan Savoy, and thank you, Luigi, for the further clarification. As we noted previously, a proposal for a fishing lodge on the Boothia Peninsula under the draft plan as it's currently written would conform to the plan on either Crown land or Inuit-owned land as is drafted. The clarification that the gentleman posed earlier is that the caribou seasonal restrictions would apply to the fishing lodge. So as drafted, that lodge would not be able to operate before July 12th, for example. So the project would conform to the designation as drafted, but the seasonal restriction for caribou calving would apply. And we also note that the dates of those seasonal restrictions would be eligible for a minor variance if a proponent wished to adjust the seasonal dates, again, as drafted. Thank you.
Any other question from registered participant? I don't see any more hands.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions and answers. Go ahead. Thank you. Looking at the time, I don't think we can do too much before 12 o'clock approaches. I think we'll conclude for the morning. Come back at 1:15. Thank you.